$200, a Super Nintendo setup costs twice as much as the old system. For the money, the company promises better pictures, sound, and adventure. Now you're playing with power, superpower. You're the king, I tell you! The king!
Only for Super NES. Only on Super NES. You're listening to the SNES podcast with your host, Soulblazer.
Hello everybody, this is Super NES Podcast, episode number 173. I'm Greg, joined by always by Joe.
Hello.
And we had to do a change of plans again for this episode out there. You know, some of the frustrations with having to do like a three-person podcast and making sure everybody can actually make sure that everybody can actually make the podcast on said date. So we will reschedule our planned podcast for later on, hopefully. And we're just simply moving up a game Joe and I planned to talk about earlier, later on to cover this earlier date. So, and this is a game that is a real classic on the system. Probably a game that when people look at the podcast list, they're like, "You guys haven't covered this yet." But the system's so big. There's so many like great must-play games in the system that it kind of just seems best just to spread them all out. So, I mean, you want a good game to talk about once this podcast hit the 300s after all, right?
Right.
So this time we're looking at the classic game Super Punch-Out, which is a sequel to, of course, the very famous Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, aka Punch-Out, like on the NES. Most people out there have probably at least heard of the game, if not played it. So this should be a more breezy episode, I think. Because I don't think we have to dive into all the nuts and bolts about this game, because probably chances out there, if you listen to this podcast, you've already played it. So, I will go over, however, the basics. Super Punch-Out was developed by the R&D 3 division of Nintendo, which was one of their divisions they had back in the 80s, 90s. All their side divisions closed in 2013, like they got merged over. So, R&D 3 worked on primarily hardware for Nintendo like over the years. They did, however, make some games. Punch-Out was, of course, like one of them. Also, they also worked on. They were the ones who worked the original on the. They were the ones who also worked on the other Punch-Out games. So in the past, so it seems right just to keep Super Punch-Out with them. They also developed Star Tropics 1 and 2, for Nintendo as well as the obscure arcade game Arm Wrestling. So they did work on some games as well too. So. The game came out in Japan in it actually got I'm sorry, let me back up. This is actually one of the rare cases in which the game got released overseas first. Probably because boxing is more popular in the West than it is in Japan. I mean, like, boxing is definitely a thing in Japan, but I don't know. I'm not really quite sure. None of the research I did on this game indicated why that was, but it actually got a very late release in Japan, but it got released in North America first in September of 1994, and then got released in Europe a few months later in January 1995. It did not come out in Japan until March 1998. So, like I said, I think probably just because they wanted to appeal to the game probably just appealed to Western audiences more. The game's not to be confused with Super Punch-Out, the arcade game, which is also just a thing. That's just Super Punch-Out in the arcade is just simply a different version of Punch-Out, the arcade game, which is the classic, like, the wireframe boxer game, where like a more like one-on-one perspective with that hardware. So the game's gotten re-released over the years, a few formats. The Wii Virtual Console. It's also on the new Nintendo 3DS shop. It was included as part of the Super NES Classic Edition, aka the Mini. And the game also, this is an interesting Easter egg. Back in back in 2000s, Nintendo had a license deal with Electronic Arts, where certain characters could be used from their franchises in both games, like a similar game. So as a result of that, one of the things about that is that the boxing game Fight Night Round 2 for the GameCube includes Super Punch Out, like it's an unlockable to play in that game. So, basically, this game plays a lot like the original game, Punch Out. So, main differences being that the graphics are a bit different. You're looking at a wireframe, kind of a wireframe of your boxer during most of the match. You see him fully when you get knocked down, or when you fight, or when you deliver a special punch. The star punches the original game had is placed by a meter in the bottom of the screen instead, which fills up as you do punches, and once it flashes, you can unload your uppercut. You can change how your gloves appear in front of you, which is, I'll get into that in Easter eggs to the end of the podcast. That can affect which styles that can affect your style of play somewhat. There's also the points are also based upon how well you do with the match, and you earn continues in this game by unlocking certain point thresholds. So those are the major differences. Like in the game, some of the boxes are the same, some of the boxes are new. There are 4 circuits to go through as opposed to 3 in the original game. Minor, major, world, and then you have a perfect record record at that point. You can also play special. So, that's basically the game, like in a nutshell. Joe, I'm assuming you have at least some familiarity with Punch Out back in the NES, right?
Oh yeah. Punch Out, Mike Tyson's Punch Out is like one of my go-tos still to this day. On the original NES, I really wish I had kept a copy, because when I did get a Nintendo again, almost 13, 14 years ago, the one game that eluded me was Mike Tyson's Punch Out, because for some reason it was going for $48, $50. And I was just like, that's ridiculous. Like, I love that game, but like emulation is still a thing. So, I collected a lot of physical NES games, but that was like one glaring game that was not in my collection. And, it transfers over to this game. This game is fantastic.
So, that expensive Punch Out, did that also include the re-release as well? Was that also pretty hard to come by?
Yeah. Believe it or not, the yellow box just Punch Out is a little more common than Mike Tyson's Punch Out as far as like being able to buy it, but the value seems to be about the same. So, I mean, it is interesting because if you look at like the black box Metroid versus like the yellow re-release box, the yellow one was printed in less numbers, but everybody seeks that gray box. You know what I mean? Even though technically it's a black box game, but it came in a gray box. So yeah. Well, but Super Punch Out, man. Whew. What?
Yeah, Punch Out wasn't included in the NES Mini though, was it? I'm trying to think.
Yes, Punch Out was included. Mike Tyson's Punch Out was not, because they weren't going to pay for the license.
Yeah, well, Mike Tyson's not what he used to be either. But.
Right. Well, that's the whole reason they dropped Mike Tyson to begin with, because, the allegations that were coming on him. Actually, it's not quite true.
Right. Actually, it's not true. That's a very, popular belief. The contract was over anyway. It just happened the contract was coming to an end just as Tyson's legal troubles were starting. So.
Right, but I'm thinking if there weren't the legal problems, they probably would have tried to get together and renegotiate. That's what I'm saying. You know what I mean?
Maybe. Possibly. I mean, who knows? Because they got Tyson originally for cheap.
Yeah.
If they tried to re-sign him, they might have to, he might have asked for the big bucks.
Yeah,
so,
that's true.
I really don't know, but yeah, so... But yeah, Mike Tyson in his prime. I remember watching some of his fights as a kid, and man, during his best years, whew, he was dominant. But there was one fight. There was one fight I watched in which he knocked the guy out I knocked the guy out won the match under a minute.
Yeah.
I mean, he was. I mean, he was that good. So,
Yeah.
but
I remember a neighbor of mine had a black box, and we would get all the pay-per-views and whatnot. And he would always say that the whole reason he bought the black box was because Tyson's fights weren't worth the $70 to $80 because they were over in a minute or two. You know what I mean? And I understood it, but yeah,
there are some boxing matches that even today they're still. That's what happens with.
Yeah. Yep, I agree. So,
but anyway, yeah. So yeah, Punch Out's a fun game. So as it sounds like you already had experience with Super Punch Out then.
Oh yeah. This is one of those games that any friend that had a Super Nintendo, this was part of their library. And whenever we went to over the house to play or whatever, this is the one game where I was like, I know Punch Out. Put Punch Out in, let's play. So I love Punch Out. I waited, God, what was it? Almost 20 years for the one to come out for the Wii.
The Wii, yeah.
And
the Wii one's very good.
Yeah, and I'll probably be waiting another 20 years before they release one for the Switch or whatever consoles comes out then. But seriously, Nintendo needs to release another Punch Out. I understand, there's not too much you can do with the formula, and you're kind of just recreating what was already there. But at this point, I'd even take a deluxe edition of the Wii version that works with the Switch. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. So, speaking about that, there's two major things we probably should talk about before we get into the actual gameplay itself. One is the fact that how do you feel about the actual whole what this game is? Because technically it's a sports game, yes, but I mean it's also like a rhythm game in the sense that you really have to learn the patterns of the boxers to be able to defeat them.
Yeah.
That's not to say. So that's not to say that you're forced to take a certain approach. I mean this game is more open than Punch Out is, and the fact that you have multiple ways that you can approach a boxer to beat him.
Right.
So you're not quite as so you have you're not quite as pigeonholed in this game as you are with the NES game. However, you are not going to get very far if you don't understand. Okay, he's doing this. I have to do this. I should do this.
Right.
That's the effect of that kind of stuff. So it's and the fact that we're talking about this before off mic. The fact that people can beat this game blindfolded
right.
kind of just proves the fact that a lot of it is just a memorization and rhythm game.
Yeah,
but it's so.
Which blows
so
my
how do you feel
mind.
about the whole thing?
That just blows my mind. But I'm thinking my own personal experience. Piston Honda comes in at you and he does this fury where he he tries to go low and then it's a mid punch. So the way you block it is you press down to block the low, and then you let it go, and you block the mid, and it's just a combination of holding that down button to, it's literally a rhythm, like you said, a rhythm game. And I remember it took me forever to figure that out. I used to get gut punched almost every single time. I'd always at some point miss that rhythm at some point. I have horrible rhythm.
Yeah. No, yeah, I hear you. This game can be very challenging at first if you don't know what you're doing because you can't. Yeah, because you can't come into this approaching like a boxing game because it's not really a boxing game per se.
Right.
I mean, if you want a boxing game, the Fight Night series that I mentioned earlier, it's a very good, more traditional boxing game.
Right.
But this is more like a boxing draped over the corpse of a rhythm game with a few of the odds and ends thrown into it as well too.
Right.
But it's a weird combination, but it works. But so, and also the fact that timing and rhythm, as we were just saying before, is very important in this game.
Yeah.
One of the big problems with Punch Out these days is the fact that Punch Out was designed to run on older CRT hardware, of course.
Yep.
So, which has certain lag delays and whatnot. So people trying to play the game now, either like either like in a very good emulator or on like an LCD television set, the games were difficult for them because of that.
Right.
So Super Punch Out does suffer from that a little bit. It doesn't suffer to quite the degree that Punch Out does, however, because I played the game both in emulation and also on my and also like on my mini.
Yeah.
The game plays very good in both ways. There is the lag, while there is not as bad. It's easier to compensate for and to be able to still like do very well with speedruns of this game, like whatnot.
Yeah.
So
do you know the difference between the Super Punch Out and the one in the arcade?
Yes, I mentioned before earlier. Super Punch Out is just basically like kind of like an improved version of Punch Out, but with like the same wireframe graphic, like your box are being used, and like like more limited boxes, that kind of stuff.
Right, but this game kind of goes back to the arcade roots.
It does in some ways.
You know, that's where you get the stamina meter, which we'll get into that with gameplay. But that was a game changer. You know what I mean? Like I was so used to stars. Like you gotta get those quick jabs in to get the stars, and then use those to be able to weaken your opponent. And this one, I think more than the original Punch Out, really relies on that rhythm game aspect.
Sure.
And counter punches and whatnot.
Right. Yeah, and your opponents also have a lot more like moves they can use on you as well too. So,
yeah, and I mean, watching those speed runs, I learned so much. Like I could not believe it. Like things that like I may have been able to do like once or twice in a lifetime. Like getting the boxer dizzy. I just thought that was like something that would randomly happen. I didn't realize that there's actually a window that if you are furious enough and can pull it off, like you can actually dizzy your opponent and then go for a quick knockout. I had no idea.
The whole key for speedruns in any Punch Out game really is like knocking your opponent down once. And like most boxers, if you do it just right, you can do a super punch to send them like immediately to the mat again.
Yeah.
So I mean, like a lot of boxers you can do that with. So
yeah,
that's a very key tactic for speed runs.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't believe the speed in which they were able to do that. The blindfolded thing is something totally different. That's unhuman. But
yeah, I think the world record. Yeah, this is a very popular game to speedrun. I think the world record video I saw was like 15 minutes.
Yeah, yep. It was 15 minutes and 23 seconds, which, I mean, that's crazy. Especially in my experience, even sitting down to play at this time, the furthest I can get is Dragon Chan. I've never gotten past Dragon Chan. Dragon Chan starts doing his kicks, and that's it. And then I'm done.
I did not own this game as growing up. I did play it a lot, like you also at friends' houses and whatnot, and I was able to get as far as the special circuit, and that was it.
Yeah.
So because special circuit is where the game really cranks up the difficulty level.
Oh yeah,
so,
I mean it's kind of cheap though. Like, how do you have, I get it, they're twins and they're brothers and whatever else, but like Rick and Nick Bruiser, I mean, come on, that's got to be like the most simple name that you can come up with, and then they're both just powerhouses.
Yeah.
So I mean, they give Mike Tyson a run for his money.
True. Yeah, the game does have stereotypes in it. Stereotypes not quite as pronounced as Punch Out has, but there are definitely some stereotypes like being used here. So
yeah. I mean, it's definitely not the same as like Soda Popinski and Piston Honda and whatnot. At least they were nice and changed Piston Honda, Piston Hurricane. Whatnot. But you still got a Bear Hugger. And that's the other thing I found that's kind of cheap with this game is, like the whole thing with the twins at the end. I mean, you have, what's his name? Bear Hugger and frickin' Mad Clown. It's just a palette swap. You know what I mean? It's the same rhythm. I think they even have like the same specials and whatever else. But it's like, it's King Hippo. It's like throwing King Hippo in there twice. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, you are getting. Well, I mean, you are getting more boxes in the game. Space is always a factor. That kind of
Right,
stuff.
right,
So,
right.
Like, so, yeah, so, like, yeah, so I mean, like, yeah, I'll give him a pass on that because it's like they're giving us like more boxers. At least the moves are different.
I mean,
so, I mean,
I'm giving him a pass because I can't get past freaking Dragon Chan, and half the time, not even Bob Charlie. So, I mean, there is that. So, I mean, the chances of me ever seeing Mad Clown in reality is really slim.
yeah, but like, but yeah. But yeah, Dragon Chan can definitely be a frustrating opponent because it's like like they never would allow anybody to kick in a boxing ring because like
Right.
it's like, yeah, what is it, like wrestling, but it just like it's it's over the top, but it works.
Yeah.
But I mean, like yeah, the gameplay feels a bit breezier in this game than Punch-Out does for some reason. I'm not really quite sure why that is. It just feels like it's more faster paced to me for some reason.
I agree. Sorry. I was trying to find a reason as to why I felt that way, and I really couldn't come up with one because, like, you have X and A for your left and right, which feels really good, and then your B is your super punch when you have it filled up.
Right.
But like, we had A and B, on the NES. You know what I mean? Yeah. Those are the same distance away as X and A. So, I don't know if, like, there's actually a, speed up a frame of animation so that, it does feel faster. But, yeah, I agree. It definitely felt swifter.
I think that's... Yeah. I think that's what it is. I think thinking about both games, I think the difference is that you simply move a bit faster and punch a bit faster in this game. Okay, I like to Punch-Out.
Yeah.
So,
also, I mean, your sprite's much bigger, so there's less room for you to travel. You kind of lose that perception when you only have your top torso showing. Yeah,
it's true. So, but so. The graphics, the game like look nice. I mean, like, they're typical, typical '90s, the '90s stuff. Typical, it's a very Nintendo-ish game to look at. Nintendo has their own style of making games. So you do, like, so even if you didn't know the game at all, you can just look at it and say, okay, this is a Nintendo game because of how it looks. But the boxers, as Joe was just saying, like, are bright and detailed. Except for your boxer, of course.
Yeah.
But well. He's not that bad looking either.
I was gonna say he's pretty detailed as well.
Yeah, but so you still have the audience. You still have the detailed audience in the background by watching the fight. Mm-hmm. There's a very fine detail on the circuit ring. The circuit sticker on the bottom on the floor, which is a nice touch.
Yep.
So, but yeah, graphics are they're cartoony without being like over the top. Yeah. Like that makes sense.
I was gonna say, you would pose the question in the Discord, asking about, graphics, what are some of the best in the system and whatnot. I would throw this game in that name of games. I think the graphics are beautiful in this game, and the shading that they use, on to show the depth of the boxers, I think is perfect. Like, when you see Bear Hugger coming at you, like, you feel intimidated,
Yeah, they more than a Punch-Out.
Yeah.
But I guess maybe if this game has a couple weak points for me, the music may be like one of them. I mean, the music's fine, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't have that same memorable, always remember music theme that Punch-Out has.
Yeah,
so,
I definitely agree there.
I mean, it's fine for what it is. It's serviceable. Yeah. I mean, like, it's not bad.
Right.
But yeah, Tyson music just sticks with you like for years and years and years because it's like, because like the opening song's famous, the match music itself is famous, but this music just like, it's fine, it's there.
Yeah, it does its job, but no, I agree. I mean, if I'm making a soundtrack of Super Nintendo music, this is not one that I'm going to pull tracks from. There's other games out there.
I do like how the game actually has like a how to play section to start the game that you can watch if you want to, which is a nice touch.
Yeah.
So, it also has a battery backup to save your progress as opposed to Punch-Out, which you had to use the password.
Right.
So, So those like yes, those are like some nice things.
I also
There
love
also is
the sorry. I also
No,
love
that's fine.
the fact that there are times that are saved so that you actually
Yes.
have goals. You know, so if you're like me and can't get past Dragon Chan, you at least have the challenge of going back and trying to beat Gabby J in 5 seconds. You know what I mean? Like, I
Right.
think 12 seconds is my best. So, I mean, you know, there's that.
Right. So also nice is the fact that the game actually has 2 different modes to play in. You have your regular championship circuit, and then you also have your time attack mode, where you can actually like go back to a previous boxer and just like basically just see how fast you can knock him out. So let's go into practice. But and you also can change the controls quite a bit to customize your style, which is a nice touch. So.
So,
Sorry, Joe. Like Joe.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
So
Sorry.
I was gonna say the momentum meter. I thought that was a nice change and also a nice nod to the arcade game. That is something that they brought over from the arcade game. And
Yeah, I prefer. I prefer that system like over Stars, which is kind of why I was kind of bummed they brought back Stars back for, like the Wii.
yeah. But at the same time, like I understand it. Like stars are more gratifying, I guess. You know what I mean? Like if you get hit, you know, you lose one. You understand. You know, you don't have that. But at this one, if you get hit, you got a chance to build it back up real quick. You know what I mean? And be able to use it still. So, and I think that's part of the strategy and the.
Yeah.
I think that's the appeal of this game. I don't want to say this feels like an easier game, because that's definitely not the case, as we've discussed. But
I think it's I know what you mean.
it just feels different. You know what I mean?
I think the game starts off. I think the difficulty scale of the game is not quite as steep as Punch Out has. So in other words, you can't get further in this game before you really struggle, because like you said yourself, because like you got to Dragon Chan, but how far did you get like in Punch Out? But
Soda Popinski.
Yes,
I could never get past Soda Popinski. Half the time, Bald Bull would knock me down. So it took me a while to get past Bald Bull, sadly.
Yeah.
But yeah, Soda Popinski is still the bane of my existence with that game. He drives me nuts, and in this one, it's Dragon Chan. Sometimes Bob Charlie. Bob Charlie is just so random, and he'll spin around the ring, and he just does it.
Right. You probably should mention also the voice. They actually, they actually like brought in like an actor. Charles. I think his last name is pronounced like like Martinet, like to do the voices like in this game.
Okay.
So, the voices in this game are very good. So, Charles. Yeah, Charles is best known for voicing like Super Mario, as well as other related characters like the '90s. I think the fact the game's not as punishing to you as Punch Out is increases the game's replay value personally, because the game encourages you to come back and try it again, because it's like you're doing okay, you're not doing well enough to beat it, but you're doing okay enough that you're like, okay, let me try it again.
Right.
I think the game, because I think the game has a gentler, for the most part, ramping up style, and encourage you to come back for. Encourage you to come back for more. I think the game still holds up very well today. This is like a very fun game to play. If you ask me which Punch Out game is my favorite, that's a tough one, because I think all 3 games are probably like very, very good. I mean, Punch Out NES, Super Punch Out Super NES, and Punch Out for the Wii. I think all 3 games are excellent. That's a real hard choice. I guess probably I would say, certainly for nostalgia value, I probably would go Punch Out like on the NES, but Super Punch Out on the Super, is like right behind it, because it's an excellent game.
Yeah, I was gonna say it'd be a toss-up between this one and Mike Tyson's Punch Out. And I mean, the Wii one was fantastic, and I love the fact that you can use the 1-2 button, or if you would like, you can be crazy and use the nunchuck and the controller and actually box. I highly don't recommend that. It works, but not very well. But I mean, this This has got a classic roster. It starts off with Gabby J, and Gabby J is the replacement for Glass Joe. He is the pushover, and I even think like his record is almost like Glass Joe's, where it's like
it is, yeah.
one win and like 99 losses or something like that. Which I saw some weird fan fiction where apparently Glass Joe's one win is Gabby J, and Gabby J's one win is Glass Joe. So take that for what it is. I personally love that, and I totally want to believe it. So there's that. Bear Hugger teaches you real quick the counter moves in this game. He's like King Hippo, where you can't really hit him in the gut. You got to go for the head, and then you got to duck out of the way. And that was the one thing I liked about this, is like, in the very beginning, it feels very much like they took some of the stuff from the first Punch-Out game and added into this one. So this way, if you're familiar with the first game, you can be quickly familiar with this game.
But you also have to, relearn like our attack styles that attack styles that like the boxes that carried over like Punch-Out because they don't work in this game.
Right. And
with one exception, like Ball Bull still can be knocked down on the third hop like this charge.
Right. And then you got Piston Honda. Or sorry, I even wrote it on my notes. I wrote Piston Honda, had to cross out Honda and put Hurricane, because even though he's Piston Hurricane, I still call him Piston Honda because they gave him the same first name, so it happens.
Yep, I know.
Piston Hurricane. And he's, like I said, he's got the weird fury of punches where it's kind of like he goes for the gut. And you just got to block low, and then he comes back up. And then you got Bald Bull, which, I mean, he's essentially the same character he was in the first Punch-Out game. Like you were just saying, he's got the same weakness. On that third hop, you just hit him, and he'll drop. As we discussed, Bob Charlie's all over the place. Dragon Chan's got, he has 2 attacks, so he does like these knees, Fury of Knees, but also does the kicks from like turnbuckle to turnbuckle. And then the rest of it was, I had to watch videos because, I couldn't get past Dragon Chan. But Mass Muscle, I'm kind of glad that I've never got the Mass Muscle, because I like the idea that like he'll spit in your face, and like in that little window of time, he's technically invulnerable because you're blind and you can't really see. But at the same time, like that adds a whole new dynamic where like you're really on your guard for most of that fight. And you're incentivized to finish it quick, and learn how to finish it quick, because if you can get him down quick enough, I think it's before the 2-minute mark, is the first time he'll spit at you. So if you can, get him down before then you can avoid it. And then Mr. Sandman makes a return. He's the boss for that. Was it the middle circuit? The major circuit?
Major circuit,
yeah. And he reappears, from Punch-Out. And I always thought it was funny that, I knew Mr. Sandman was in this game, and I thought it was great that they reused him from the original Punch-Out. But to see him kind of like, so he's dropped down the card, basically. You know what I mean? Like, he was the big bad in the first Punch-Out, but now we're looking at an aged Mr. Sandman. So he's only at, the major circuit. He's not part of like the world circuit anymore. So I thought that was an interesting touch. And then you have Aaron Ryan, Heike Kagero, which, watching that was one of those boxers that I was like, okay. Like, he kind of does the Dragon Chan thing where he flies around the ring as well. And then you have Mad Clown, Super Macho Man, who, I think Super Macho Man was in the first game, right?
No, you're thinking about like no, there's somebody else. Oh, I'm trying to remember now. I don't think so.
Because I know Mr. Sandman was. I swore Super Macho Man. Hold on, I got to do a quick Google. I'm pretty sure, if I'm correct.
Yeah, actually,
I think
actually,
I was gonna say I think Super Macho Man replaced Mike Tyson.
No, that was Mr. Dream. Who, but I think Super Macho Man was the guy before Tyson. Yeah, he's the guy who does the.
Yep.
Yeah. He's the guy who does the. He's the guy who does the bouncing the bouncing Pixora.
Yes.
But, yeah.
So there we go. All right, and then you get the specials, the special circuit. And did you ever have a chance to play the special circuit?
I have not gotten there myself personally in this game because, like you, this is the major circuits. The major circuits, like as far as I got, but I have watched everything like on YouTube.
Yeah. So watching like Narcissus Prince and like Hoy, Quarlo, both of them, like I feel like at that point, like, I mean, obviously I would be good enough to take them on, but I feel like at that point, like, especially watching like Ho Quarlo and the way he bounces around the ring, I think at that point I'd probably just give up. In all fairness, like Narcissus Prince is like his attacks seem like he's almost like what's his name, Dom Flamingo from the first game, where like, you know, if you can land that first punch just right, you can kind of open up with a fury and kind of take care of him okay. But
right.
Yeah, Hoy does some weird stuff, and it's all unpredictable and random. And yeah, even, you know, some of the speedrunners I saw had difficult with him. More so, you know, than the Bruiser brothers. So, and then that rounds off the game is Rick and Nick Bruiser, and they're very much the same. It's. I was actually kind of sad when I saw it, like how similar those two are. Fight style, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I figured that they would have at least, you know, tried to mix it up at least a little bit, but they're very much the same. It's like two boss fights right after one another, and it's like same weaknesses, same kind of predictive pattern, kind of anticlimactic.
Yeah, it certainly has a very like good mix of boxers. I mean, like, you know, Punch Out had like a good mix of boxers, but this game has even better a better mix.
Yeah.
But one of the best things the Wii version has going forward is like that they took the best boxers like both games.
Yeah.
To put them in that way, put in that one too. So they really have like a great roster of boxers. The boxers like that game, but yeah, minus the reskins and minus some of the other cheapness issues. You know, this is a pretty good roster of boxers in this game too, I think. So yeah, definitely like a lot of fun. But yeah, you know, but yeah, this is definitely one of those games. It's like even though that you lose badly to it, it's the kind of game that makes you want, like, you know, come back for more. So
Yeah.
So definitely like a fun game in this area. Yeah, this is still a very fun game today. You know, I think the game holds up like very well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is still one of those games, like, I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to play it, even though I know I can only get so far. I'm going to have fun playing it for the, you know, the time that I have with it. And it's the same thing with the original Punch-Out. Like, I still can't get past Soda Popinski, but you know what? I said I'll play every single time up to Soda Popinski. You know what I mean? And I know I'm going to lose, and that's fine. I'm okay with it. Like, I know Mike Tyson would wipe the floor with me anyways. I don't need to see him.
Also, there's an Easter egg out there. Part of the intro music piece that we use here, that like this podcast, that Paul Norman did for me years ago. Many thanks again, like for Paul. There's a voice clip in that, like from the commercial, like on the commercial of like Super Punch Out. So, so in case you're wondering if you heard that somewhere before, yes, you have, because there were 2 commercials like this game that were used in North America when the game came out. So reviews for this game pretty much have said the same things. Pretty much have said the same things that we already have. Talking about the highs and the lows. The game ranked very well when it came out. Still ranks very well today. The average game score for it is like about 83%. So, however, there is a small vocal minority who says this game is not as good as like Punch Out like on the NES. So, it definitely is not. Well, I mean, I understand why they're saying it. I'm just saying there is a minority out there that does not feel this is a better game. For various reasons.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get it. I understand it. I don't know. I don't want to go so far to say it's better. It looks better, absolutely. But I mean, the game fundamentally is Punch Out, and that's what it comes down to. It's fun. There's a rhythm aspect to it, and it's got wonderful characters that you can interact with. That's all that matters. And you know what? And that's good.
Yeah. So, I guess like one of the complaints that those people have that I might possibly agree with a little bit is that they feel the game is kind of lacking the overall appeal the original game had. I can see that, but I'd also argue that's because of things going on beyond the game's control. It's like, Punch Out came out was a very early NES game. NES a dominant system. So that game so better. I mean, this game sold well, but Punch Out sold even better. But I think it's just like by this point, competition was more fierce, and the game just didn't have the game just didn't have as much hard targeting technology in the first place.
Right.
So, I think that I can see that, but I don't think that I don't think that's like really the game's fault though.
Also, let's see. This came out October of '94, right?
Yes.
Let's see.
If you're looking for like a magazine,
I'm looking for other releases in that month.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, in that year in general, you had Donkey Kong Country, Super Metroid. I mean, those are the big ones right there. Earthbound, even though Earthbound technically is more popular now than it was then. Those are really the big standouts that I'm seeing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you definitely get
Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah.
Uni Racers, but that one flew under the radar too.
You definitely had some big, you definitely had some big releases, like big releases coming out.
Yeah. I mean, so I can see why this might have fell under the radar with some people, but yeah.
But yeah, anyway, fun game still. But still a very nice game to play, and very pleased to see that the lag does not affect this game as much as the original Punch Out game does. So, any final thoughts? On the game, Joe, before we wrap it up?
No, but I just wanted to add that I don't know how, but I completely overlooked that Final Fantasy 6 and Mega Man X2 also released in October of 1994. So.
Was Final Fantasy 6 1994? God,
yeah.
I don't remember that now.
So,
yeah,
I mean,
okay.
Yes, Super Punch-Out is a great game, but look at what it was buried under. And think about, even if we go back in time and look at October of 94, let's say that it's 5 weeks instead of the typical 4 weeks. you're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games, all fantastic for its time period. That's not counting the ones that, you know, we can look upon now and say they were great games as well, because then it's even more buried. So yeah, I mean, I can see how some people, you know, maybe didn't connect quite, you know, as well with this game. So
Nope, definitely. Yeah. Yep. Good argument I made there. So, there are a couple codes you can use in this game. If you want for, you know, if you want like the Easter egg, it doesn't really add anything to the game majorly, but it's a nice thing to do if you want to. You can put your game, so you can put your name in the game in Japanese, like if you want to as well. Like if you want to, by doing like a certain, like, you know, button control combination, which is a nice touch. So, I also mentioned before how you can change the position, like change the position, like if you're like your challenger's hands, if you want to. Certain speedrunners will do this in order to be able to make certain strategies faster for them. So, if you hold up the controller until the ding of the bell, your challenger's hands will be up and like ready to block. If you don't hold anything, your challenger's hands like will be down, ready to block body blows.
Right.
So if you like, if you want a certain out of the gate strategy to work, you can do that to kind of manipulate the game a little bit. So that's a nice touch.
it is.
And also, if you go through the special circuit without losing 4-0, the ending scenes in the game change up a little bit to reflect that. So, anyway, so as mentioned before, this game was very common, sold very well, yada yada yada. So eBay is flooded with copies of this game. It's pricing for carts not bad, but CIB copies are expensive. Are more expensive than I thought they'd be for a game this common. So, 60 copies of the game are currently listed on eBay. At the time of this podcast, 188 copies recently sold. These prices include shipping for North America, well, U.S. I should say. Sorry. Average price of the cart by itself, so anywhere from $13.50 to $56.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So. Yeah, not bad for a cart. Like I said before, this game's also been re-released, and this game's also like very easy to get like an emulation.
Yeah,
too,
yeah.
So because it's on the virtual console systems and whatnot. So, CIB, however, it's a bit pricier. CIB copies have sold anywhere from $60 up to all the way up to $211, depending upon like condition of the materials in the boxes and whatnot. So. And there was also a sealed copy of the game so recently for a whopping $900. Oof. And there's also and there's also graded copies, as well. But we're not even going to go there.
Yeah, that's people just wasting their money.
So card at least is still a pretty cheap game to get for your library,
and a fun one at that.
Yes, yep, still a very fun game. So. Anyway, as always, we appreciate you listening to this podcast. If you have any questions, comments, feedback, suggestions, please feel free to check them out on our Facebook page. Or you can also send me an email if you want to directly to the SNES podcast at yahoo.com. Joe, how can they reach you at?
You can find me on Twitter at JOESUX30. And also, I have a very public Facebook.
Yes. So, next time on the podcast, we're doing a take 2. We rescheduled our podcast with Tim for Winter Project J from last month because of some mic issues he was having. So everything going well. He should be here with us so the next time that we'll cover that game. So, and Joe, I know you thought, I know you thought that game was frustrating, but I'll be so interested to hear your thoughs on it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it'll be nice to finally cover it and whatnot, you know, because I'm going to have to go back and kind of refresh myself and give it the old college try.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yep. I understand totally. So, anyway, as always, we appreciate you listening to the podcast very much. Hope everybody out there stays safe, be well, and we'll catch you again next time. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Nintendo controls 80% of the video market. But no matter how you play the game, or which game you play, things definitely have come a long way since Pac-Man.
Now you're playing with power. Default power.